had to acquire some skill sets that potentially you didn't have before, like the CEO of the business versus what your past career was. You stepped into not only a brand new world, but you had to like go through quite a bit of adversity at the same time as you were adapting into that new world. How has that gone for you?
Ooh, that's such a good question.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the MTNTOUGH Podcast. I'm your host, Dustin Diefenderfer, and I am so glad that you are here. We love seeing you dive into these episodes week after week, and it is our goal to bring you an inspiring guest every single time that helps you live the abundant life. They help you stay dangerous, and they add some mental toughness skills to that mental fitness toolbox. Thank you for being here, and thanks for making us one of the top mindset podcasts in the country. Two things before we dive into today's guest. One is, if you are a brand new listener to this show, I do want to make sure you know that you get 6 weeks of free training on the MTNTOUGH app. All you need to do to take advantage of that as a listener is go to MTNTOUGH.com, check out on the start free trial page, and enter the code MOUNTAINPOD, MTNPOD, all caps, all one word. That is going to get you rolling on the MTNTOUGH Plus app for 6 weeks at no charge. Secondly, I still do have a few spots open in my brotherhood program called The Sword. If that is something you're interested in, just go to thesword.life to apply. Now, shifting into today's guest. On the show today, we have the new CEO of Fieldcraft Survival. Mike Hernandez is a devoted husband of 17 years and a proud father of 4 children, and he's been with Fieldcraft since 2018, now serving as the CEO. This is an impactful conversation. Mike really blew me away on several different levels, and his faith is rock solid. So please stand by for Mike Hernandez. So you just got home from recovering a truck?
You could call it that. Yeah, I mean, I have a pretty consistent show tour. One of them is the Overland Expo, where we partner with really great friends in the space, more like family now, because I've been doing it for about 7-8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And my flagship vehicle, which is, well, it was like finalizing, right? It's like 5 years, and then I'll cycle a new truck in and stuff like that, kind of like on its last leg. And this really bizarre thing happened, and case in point, it was like the end of the 6th day, and the show ended like around 3 or 4. I got out, was coming down the mountain from Loveland, Colorado through Vail. I don't know what happened, dude. I think I might have either dozed off or like spaced just for a second, because I was coming down this hill, base of water. Oh, mind you, I was getting slammed by rain. I mean, and in Colorado, dude, the rain is just insane for about an hour. And the next thing I know, I'm in the dirt, and I'm like, dude, I'm either going to go off this 100-foot cliff, or if I can aim and hit the barrier, like that's the direction. But as I kind of came to, bro, I legit was like calling his name. Like,
dude,
Jesus, and I hit like a hard passenger, and the truck squatted, moved over. And when I started to hit the barrier, I was like, boom. And what ended up happening is like the base of it hit the rear driver's side, exploded this giant 40-inch tall tire that I have on this thing, and sent me across the freeway the other direction to safety. And I just sat there like, what just happened, man? I mean, like my phone is, it detects the crash. It's like, bah, 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 and it's like trying to call my wife and EMS. And I'm sitting there just like,
oh, dang.
Thank the Lord. Like,
dang. That's wild. And did you come out of there with like no scratches or just a couple bruises?
Not even bruises. And that's where I was like, did I hit my head? I'm like checking myself in the door, no airbags deployed. And that's why I think I might have dozed off or just disconnected, maybe it was just like spacing out for a second. because I was like, man, I have nothing. And it's been 2 weeks and same thing. And I sat down, my dad's a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And I called him afterwards and I was like, Dad, I've had a lot of close calls. I was a very like rambunctious kid growing up. I've had a lot of close calls, and like I really feel like I know my guardian angel on a personal level because of how crazy I was as a little kid.
Uh-huh.
And this one was just very I don't know, it was very intense, especially being this old and kind of going through it. So yeah, I
Dang.
mean, tow truck showed up like in 30 minutes. Oh, get this. One of my buddies who I've known online for like Instagram for years was behind me because we're all coming out of the show. And he stops and he pulls over and he's like, Mikey, I'm going to take you home. And I'm looking at him because I'm just shocked and all this adrenaline. He goes, Mikey, we follow each other online. This is AIM. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, brother. Like,
Oh, just out of it.
recognize, you know? And he's like, it's okay. Come here. I'll pray for you. He's a Christian too, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, dang, man.
Dang.
Dude, he took me home. He took me from Colorado, essentially Grand Junction, all the way to Goodyear, Arizona, and then hooked a left westward to LA. And I
Dang.
was like, yeah, 14 hours, bro. It
Yeah.
just took me. I was like, dude, this is how cool like our community is.
That's
My
incredible.
wife and kids were just happy to see me because I called them. I was like, I'm good, I'm fine, but so
So you got to go rescue that rig.
yeah.
Man.
So they totaled it, and we're working on a piece of content on it because the story is actually really interesting. It's mainly body damage. I have these big old 1-ton axles on it in 40s. It's totally overbuilt. So like the suspension's not phased at all. The drivetrain, under the truck, it just, when I hit the barrier, like it peeled it back like a banana peeling, and then like drove it all the way across my side. So like it ripped off the fender, dug into the doors, messed up the B pillar, and then ripped apart the bed of the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently that's like 20 grand worth of damage. And they're like, nah, the truck's only worth like 31. So we're just going to total it and cut you a check. And I was like, can I go pick it up? Yep. So
Sweet.
we'll see. Still kind of done with it, but yeah.
You never know in life, man. Different things lead to different things. It's crazy what.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Well,
But it's like we were talking about, like in terms of your mindset, like it just shifted back. And, at the end of the day, we talk about the truck, right? It's the vehicle of the accident, whatnot. But at the end of the day, the first person I called was my wife, right? It's like the people who matter. It's we can't replace each other. Who cares about these stupid material things? And it's like, man, I made a big mistake. Thank God everything worked out. And I'm able to see them again. And I'm able to talk to you, as we're doing this and all this other stuff. So it's just like a recentering, refocus. We can get so caught up in the BS, but really what's important,
Yeah, I know. I think God does that sometimes too. He can bring the house of cards down when we are, man. Especially around like material possessions.
Absolutely, right?
He's like, you love this truck? And then he's like, I'll just take it from you real quick.
Like,
yeah. Well, man, I wanted to start with your journey a little bit. Would love to hear kind of how you went from, your military service to what you're doing now at Fieldcraft. It sounds like it's a wild journey. Would love to unpack that with you.
Well, first and foremost, I was never in the military. That's
Okay.
always like real. Yeah. I mean, being in this company, especially for 7 years, it's always kind of like an expectation. For many years, I was the only, civilian guy in the group. And it's like, no, I get it. No, let's be respectful to the military. That's not me.
Gotcha.
But dude, I totally love, and I've been working with veterans for years now, and I really appreciate, and respect everything that you guys do. But, I actually started in behavioral health. So the whole mindset concept and, channeling powers that be and whatnot, those things are actually what I focused on. And it actually naturally progressed into, being with a lot of male guys and whatnot. So I actually started a career, and it must be like 17 years ago. I spent 15 years in behavioral health, and I have a professional license as a provider at the provider level, or an MPI, much like a physician or a nurse, has. I'm registered as a provider. And my focus was primarily with providing behavioral health services for wards of the state, which means kids who have been removed from their homes by the state for whatever reason, but with another layer, they have some pretty extreme and intensive needs, and they're either coming out of a treatment center or they're going to. and my house was licensed like a foster care home. And even for many years, like if you go back to the way that I communicated this, because I was in, right, I've been out for 2 years.
Yeah.
When I was in, I used to say, I'm just a foster dad, because I didn't really want too much of an eye or too much of a inward look on what we were doing, because I was protecting my clients, or essentially my kiddos, right?
Sure.
So very fortunate for 15 years to do that. Blessed, called, by the way. I've had success in that, but I know it was the Lord who had his hand on that. 7 children, 15 years,
Dang.
all young boys, and 100% success rate, where they either transitioned to their next level of care or got adopted, to their homes, or one of them even transitioned to the military, which I'm very proud of. From my house. And actually, and one of them, my parents adopted. He's actually my little brother in the Army.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, just really, really, really cool things. My professional license had somewhere around 28 to 32 continual education credit hours, like every year. So I did that for 15 years. And then I should say also piggyback that on, I was very fortunate to be and grow up in Peoria, Arizona, where there was a huge focus on like vocational programs at my high school.
Yeah.
So I actually went through a Ford funded program where we were able to test and get our ASE certifications to be mechanics. So, at a young age, I've always loved this whole vehicle thing, but I was like, what? It just wasn't my calling to go that direction. It's just a hobby. I loved it. But I combined the two, essentially, that influenced me. And not only did my boys come in and we worked on their behavioral problems and their emotional needs and spiritual needs and stuff like that, but I paired it with, this is how we maintain vehicles. And then we would go out and
work on them.
A lot of us who are hunters also understand this, dude. When you're out in the pines or the cedars and you're like, man, this is phenomenal. My little dudes felt the same thing when we're out there. And I showed them, this is where we reconnect with nature. This is what the Lord's given us through the vehicles that we do. And I combine those two things. Dang. Which essentially led me to Fieldcraft Survival back in 2017, end of 2017, beginning of 2018. And, at the time, there was no Fieldcraft Mobility, like you see the sticker behind me. And there was this concept of, hey, I'd like to do this here with our community. How do we do that? And I was like, well, I've been doing it with these parts of the state
for a while now.
Yeah, so really great. And then, what's really cool too about it is being able to serve within this community and also give that behavior health, background with a lot of our guys who struggle, who have been through trauma, and we were talking a little bit before this about that mindset shift of the accident that I just had. A lot of times when I could stand in front of these dudes and say, look, man, like we have this poor kid, he was trafficked, there's cartel involvement, or there's some really messed up things that people who were supposed to protect him did to him. A lot of my guys were like, bro, that's real trauma, especially being 6 years old and watching, the cartel carve up your siblings or whatever that is. Right.
Yeah.
So I know I went fast, I'm sorry, but that's kind of the progression through the company. And now, I'm very blessed and fortunate and honored to lead the charge as we kind of continue on after 10 years. Man. This year is actually our 10-year anniversary, 2025. So congrats. Yeah, thank you.
Was that a wild ride going from just working there to becoming the CEO?
Yeah, to say the least.
That had to be nuts.
Sometimes the Lord throws a wrench, into things, and this is not in a negative connotation whatsoever. A lot of times I really struggled with and have in the past, and now I'm learning to kind of give this over to the Lord with this control that we believe we have over our lives, right? It's like, well, I have this plan, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to have 4 kids and I'm going to, be married and a businessman and stuff like that. And then sometimes the Lord's like, yeah, but what, you realize I have this for you, choose, but I have this. And it's interesting because when I went through the behavioral health career that I had, there was a clear direction, brother. Like, even being a parent, like right now I have a 2-year-old as my youngest and a 14-year-old as my oldest. And right now it's like clear direction as a man, like, Father, get these little ones to where they understand, that we need to be others focused and it's not about our own things we got going on.
Yeah.
But as that starts to leave the house, and even with my 15-year career in behavioral health, things start to get a little like, what is this, Lord? Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with Fieldcraft. It's like, I've been here. I'm old enough to not really, I grew up in the analog era, right? Like we were the last decade. I was born in 83, to just grow up completely analog. We did, I remember when cell phones started, first pagers, right? There was no course plan to be like, oh, you're going to take pictures for Instagram or YouTube.
Dude,
or whatever, right?
I remember the pagers. Like,
yeah, remember that?
Yeah. You had to page your buddy in high school to figure out where he was at. Then he had to go to a payphone and call you back.
Yes. So there was like, there was nobody in our, childhood growing up who's like, if you take pictures and you got 1.2 million in following, you can build a business, you can do all this outreach. There was none of that. So what's interesting is I was just serving the community with these little boys in the foster care system and behavioral health. And, as part of what I do, it's a lot like client, HIPAA rules. You're not going to take pictures. You can't really talk about what's going on. There's never going to be a time where I like name them and stuff like that. So when we were out, I would just take pictures of the Jeep. And that's, I guess, what resonated with people is, I started to build this little following of one of the Jeeps I had back. And then the conversation always led to, well, what are you doing, and how does this work? And I'm just like, basically, I'm working with these little guys, and, one month we'll budget and schedule an oil change. The next we'll swap out suspension and whatever it is. And then we go use it. Right. And that was it. So the transition from there to, okay, you're a brand ambassador, this is funny. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Well, just take pictures, wear our stuff. Like, cool. Spread the gospel essentially. And I'm still working in behavioral health. And, as the years passed, and it turned into like, hey, let's do this really cool course where we combine really practical things that people need, like, survival. How do you procure water? How do you sanitize it? How do you make a fire? How do you combine those things to boil water so that you can make food? And then, it progresses into, well, what happens if, there's an accident, you recover a vehicle? And we started building up these really cool courses that I think really, and still do, resonate with people, especially like the car accident I just had. It's like, dude, I've used several things in that.
You never know.
Teaching curriculum, right? Yeah. And then it went to, well, okay, there's a shift in the culture of the company. The company needs to reinvent themselves, and it's the direction. And sometimes it's like, I'm sitting here, and even as we're talking about it, I'm feeling this. Like sometimes you just need to be consistent, right? Maybe you don't have that clear direction. And 2 years I stepped away from behavioral health. It was my season was over, and now just naturally kind of filled into that leadership role. It's like, okay, Lord, send me, like, let's go.
Yeah. For more than a century, America's sportsmen and women have led the way in paying for the restoration of wildlife, conserving habitat, and investing in the future of our natural world. This is a legacy built not on what we take ourselves, but on what we give back. That's the nature of conservation, paying it forward for the next generation. This is the reason Mountain Tough is a proud partner of Wild Sheep Foundation, an organization committed to keeping and putting wild sheep on the mountain. If you're not already a member, learn more today at wildsheepfoundation.org. Yeah, and you walked into, hey, I mean, you've been through, since 2018 up to 2025, you've been through some turbulent times, and then you had to acquire some skill sets that potentially you didn't have before, like the CEO of the business versus what your past career was. There's a lot of capital questions, financing questions, forecasting questions, modeling, subscriptions, people, HR, talent. So you stepped into not only a brand new world, but you had to like go through quite a bit of adversity at the same time as you were adapting into that new world. How has that gone for you?
Ooh, that's such a good question. let me give you kind of a insight into one of the most recent business things I had to negotiate out of. We had this considerable, contract that sometimes stepping into a role, and I think that I can really equate it to, let's say, foster care and behavioral health. Guys who have blended families, man, I really respect you. Guys who have taken on other people's children or other man's child, dude, respect, man. Maybe it's not this crazy negative thing like me where they were taken from their homes and you're dealing with traumatic stuff, but just that shift alone is significant, right? And in many ways, if I could just relate it to something, that's what this feels like. I stepped in this contract, with another neighboring business, and it's like, this isn't mine. I didn't birth this. There's a lot of mistakes made here. How do we fix this? And that has been very interesting, where it's just like, well, here's my cards, just full transparency, learning to do that. Not get too emotional about the reasons or get hung up on the why that this happened. It's just more like, well, how do we kind of push forward and look at it? And it was like $200,000 of things for the year that needed to be done. And, we owed that. And it's like trying to establish rapport, step in, show some kind of like honor, show some kind of integrity, but then just really relying on the Lord and saying, you know what, this is what I got. Can we get out of this for, let's say, 20 grand with these deliverables? Are we okay cutting this short? And just seeing the Lord work through and influence the other, business leaders. And like, yeah, absolutely, Mikey, let's do that. And just like, oh my God, thank you, Jesus. Right.
Yeah.
So to your point, there's a lot of this where you're not always going to have the answers. And right now, getting back to that clear direction of being a dad right now, like, dude, yes, let's do that. And right now, going back to being a CEO of a company that isn't really like my forte or my foundation or my schooling. It's just like being comfortable, not being comfortable at all, and having people wanting to wring your neck and just be like, sorry.
Yeah.
Is there anything we can do? And just walking in humility, I guess, is really what it is, and just trusting in the Lord. And that's it, man. Being open, like right now, like you said, I mean, it's been like 9 months since the main transition, and just, taking in all I can. Also really great mentors, that's part of it, where as soon as, the leadership role came in, it was like, okay, I'm totally not, I mean, I know some, I've had a small business within behavioral health for 15 years, but that's not running, a multi-million-dollar company. I mean, problems are a lot scarier when it's $200,000 and So yeah, it's been interesting, brother.
Man, I love that, because you think about, like, biblically, everyone's called into things that they really don't have any experience in over and over and over and over again.
What's really great too is that specific business partner that I'm talking to you about. He calls me after we negotiate everything, and I flew in to visit him face to face, and that's part of it, right? Like, being, I guess, old school and the analog era, I really do like to look in someone's eyes and meet them, shake their hand, and even if it's, at my cost, let's do that. And he calls me and he's like, "How you doing, Mikey?" He's just so great, because he knows I'm getting beat left and right. And I go, man, sometimes I ask the Lord, is this really what, I should have decided? And he's just laughing. He's like, dude, I've been doing this 30 something years, and sometimes, most of the time, that's all you can do. So I'm like, okay, thank you for that.
It connects to how you started, where he does a lot to make you realize you're not in control, and there are very few things we can actually control, and the only thing really is our thoughts, attitude, and actions. And
absolutely,
man, sometimes you just really learn that.
Absolutely, brother. I'm in that place right now. So, like, when people ask, this is like the most uncomfortable I've ever been. This is like, the most things that I've taken in responsibility. But at the same time, I know 100% that the Lord has something here, and whatever that is, I'm here for it,
I love that.
Yeah.
I imagine, just from like this brief start of the conversation with you, my hunch is that one thing that has helped and is going well, and probably was a game changer in a CEO transition, is your ability to just chat with the team, check in on the team, talk to the team, learn how they're doing, what they're feeling, what they're struggling with. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. There's a hard focus when it comes to our walk with Christ in terms of your character. And, I may not have understood it growing up, especially being a pastor's son. Why? Especially at a young age, like 10, right? You don't understand why your dad's like, hey, look at other men in the eye, shake their hand, do these XYZ things. It's like, okay. But really, that character culmination as you grow into manhood, in your 20s, really starts to determine who you're going to be, right? So getting back to the team, and I am very relational by nature because of that character building and whatnot that we focused on as a kid and through Christianity, right? And I have seen huge success within my team with just applying that relational foundation of what we're doing. It's like, okay, I understand you guys. Like, how can we do this together? What do you need? And it's not just the conversation. It's okay, well, let's implement certain things. Let's change, let's shift around. And there was a quote the other day that I found that, that well said well done is better than well said. And the meaning, that actions over words. So in that sense, in terms of the team, that's really what we've been focusing on and trying to build relationships and what. Fortunately, though, and here's the other thing too, is, being that I'm the most tenured person in the company anyways, and started in 17, there's a lot of, like relational equity, let's call it, that I was able to, build over many years. So a lot of that is also being operated at the same time back to, that's the character.
Yeah. That's a good point, because you didn't show up there recently on day number 1 and have to build all that from scratch.
That has been hard for people who do that. And I'm like, wow, I'd love to understand how you did that.
Well, it's crazy in life just how important that is, when people realize they're not cogs in a machine and that you really care about them, care about what they're struggling with, what's going on in their family. How can you help them with something small like a truck, or giving them this day off to get to their kid's graduation?
It's so true, dude. I mean, crazy. Even right now, like you're one of my other family members got into a car accident just right before mine, ended up totaling her car. And to your point, I have thankfully the ability to say, hey, I have a little LJ, like a 2004 little piecer that I haven't even started yet. And, he hits me up and he's like, my fiance got in this car accident. Can't really afford it. Could we borrow the little LJ? I was like, yeah, dude, 100%. And then I get into a car accident. I got 2 vehicles out. And I just really, sat there just appreciative, that I was able to help them out in the same time, because a lot of times that's what leadership is, being able to operate in action and already having something stored up, essentially, right, as a leader to give or do in action. So, dude, you're 100% right on with what's going on.
Do you feel like, in a way, what you're doing at Fieldcraft can kind of be a ministry work for you, not only in the team you get to plug into, but the uniqueness of your business, people getting out, exploring? There's so much to what you do when it comes to like self-reliance, preparedness, resilience. Someone might be just planning like a big overland trip, but just like hunting, we know that if someone spends 3 days in the backcountry without their phone, and they don't see a single animal, and they have their bow, we know that they're going to have a life change moment. And mobility and preparedness and getting out on these expeditions seems really similar to that.
Dude, 100%. There's something that's happened to me in the last, I would say, 3 months. And it's like a realization of what you just said, totally ministry. Being a pastor's son growing up, there's always a lot of pressure for us PKs to take like your dad's church. And that was never in the cards for me. I didn't feel called. And it's funny because my dad just did this 2,000-mile trip with me, and him and I talked in depth about it. But the ministry just isn't like corporate church ever, right? Working with the kiddos that I did, 100% ministry and a calling. And you find God in those little pieces. What's interesting about Fieldcraft, and I didn't realize this until I had this conversation with now a really good friend of mine, Lee from Modern Icon, and he's like, "Hey man, don't think that what you're doing is just taking people camping or teaching them to shoot or whatever that is." He's like, "Let's look at this in a bigger." And he's very wise, by the way. I don't know if you know him. I'd love to bridge that.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Think about this." He's like, especially this political climate that we just got out of, having all this woke crap shoved down our throats. And I'm paraphrasing his words. And Fieldcraft has basically stood in the gap of saying, unhook from the machine, learn to be self-reliant. He's like, the other side of that, the enemy's not going to want the country to understand how to be self-reliant and live a lifestyle that's going to, show Christ through it. The opposite of that is it just wants you to be stuck on your phone, plugged into the matrix. And that's the way the enemy creeps in. Do not, let that be something that just slips past you guys. And Fieldcraft, as you progress and go through this, is, there's an element of that where you are facing some pretty gnarly things head on, especially when you look at it from a standpoint. Let's just take it back, to the early 1900s, before vehicles started to come in. I mean, it was common for people then to understand, how to use non-motorized vehicles to get around, to understand that if you didn't boil your water or filter it out, that you could potentially get giardia or get sick. Little things that we take for granted. We walk over to Faucet Press, or like me, I got a filter, it's like it goes through 3 different things and it tastes better. And I was, don't forget that that's the origination, or that's where it came from, even farther back into the 1800s and whatnot. It's like things were totally different. So I want to say, to answer your question, 100%, as we step into this Fieldcraft thing, I truly believe, one, that it's very relevant in today's age, just on like a natural level of, dude, are you seeing what's going on in the Gulf? I mean, there's always some kind of, hurricane, there's always some kind of, earthquake or fire, and that's just natural disasters. But even to the point of, man, you see this girl get stabbed in the back on the, what was it, a train or a bus the other day?
I didn't see it.
It's like, oh my God, bro, it's trash. She's just sitting there and some dude in the back just comes up, stabs her in the neck, kills her. Jeez. And it's on video. And it's like, well, Fieldcraft is a place where we can teach self-defense, self-reliance, self-awareness, those kinds of things. And I'm not saying anything negative about her because it's tragedy, but it's one of those instances like the accident that we started with, where it's like, come on guys, like it's time to change the way we've done things, because we're really put ourselves in a vulnerable level. And I don't think that's from the Lord. I think that the Lord wants us, to be in a position where we are leaders, teaching those things and making the people around us better. It doesn't have to be, Fieldcraft has what, like 2.5 million in subscribership. You don't have to have that. Just affect your local community, right? I mean, raise your family, for crying out loud. If you got 2 kids and a wife, let's get them dialed, man, So I do believe that Fieldcraft is, a ministry, but also like on let's talk about like the adventure side of it, because we do have that, right?
Yeah.
Like hunting, like mobility. I mean, those things for dudes who, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I think this will probably resonate with you too, who are running their small business, we carry the weight of the world. We return home. Maybe we are dealing with this overlooming thing business-wise. We come home and we put on this face for our children and we shield them from all of this that's going on. How do we progress in a way that not only teaches them to be strong and to be able to set them up to manage those things, but also live a life where we're just not depressed and defeated and miserable, and we're running down our old lady and stuff like that, right? Well, obviously God needs to be the center of your life. And I love that you have not only had these conversations, but too, there's tools that we have in our toolbox that we could use And getting outside, man, there's so many benefits to it, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's natural. And I think the vast majority of us in this community would say this, to live in a concrete high rise with 500, levels, getting out and you can't touch grass, you can't put a pack on that's 30 pounds and ruck for 7 days and stuff like that. Like that's natural.
Yeah.
But to be in this like concrete jungle or even in an urban environment, we've really kind of set ourselves up for failure. Those pieces of going and hunting and mobility and overlanding and camping become very important to us. And it's funny because when we first started doing that, a couple of my dudes, just 20 years of service and 10 tours and, seeing things like one of my buddies is like, bro, one time we got ambushed and I had to jump on the 50 cal and I'm sitting here, cooking off rounds and I don't have ears or anything on and I have snot like pouring out on this gun. He goes, and I don't realize that I'm getting a concussion for being on it too long. And I got all these things going on. The opposite of that though is like when we come back and he was like, I gladly did that, and served in that sense. But when we come back to civilization, there needs to be a way to kind of unpack that and create a body healing experience. And, the outdoors does that. The vitamin D from the sun, right?
Yeah.
Like the crisp air, just even your heart rate being elevated and your breathing and all that stuff. Like, I don't think a lot of dudes realize that, or even say, maybe that's not my thing, but let's go try it because it's a tool that I've seen other dudes use, and sit by the fire and see how awesome that is to commune with brothers, and be out hunting or whatever that is. Those things become very important to you at that point when you experience it.
Hey guys, I did want to interrupt for a quick minute right here and let you know about some supplements I've been taking. I did shy away from supplements for a long time. I was always cautious about what they were made out of, where they were from, and who the team was behind the brands. But over the last couple of years, I've got to meet the team at Mountain Ops from top to bottom, and they are an amazing group of humans. I've got to know the CEO, Trevor Farnes, really well, and he is a mission-focused individual that cares about humans living a better quality of life so that they can have that abundant life. So over the last couple of years, he has helped me add some things that have changed the game for me. One of those things that I've added is creatine from Mountain Ops. It helps me maintain some muscle mass, but also it's a big player in cognitive function, one of the most researched supplements out there. Also, I've added reds, greens, and protein, all from Mountain Ops. What I found as a busy professional, always on the run, I do eat a whole foods diet for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but on the go, it's hard to get enough vegetables, fruits, and protein. So I've added that from Mountain Ops, and it has significantly changed the game. I can feel it in my performance. I haven't got sick for a long time, and I can certainly feel it in my mental clarity as well. The last thing I've added is the Mountain Tough Hydrate product for the backcountry, for hunting season. When I'm in the hills, I do run short on those electrolytes. We even have a Mountain Tough flavor, the Mountain Tough Lemon Lime Hydrate, and that is a game changer for hydration in the backcountry. So I keep it really simple. That is all I've added to my protocol, and it has certainly helped me, and I certainly believe in the team and the culture behind Mountain Ops. They have started an initiative that's been around for a while called Conquer Hunger. Conquer Hunger is giving meals to hungry kids that aren't getting enough food, and they've given out over 6 million meals plus to kids through their Conquer Hunger initiative. So every order that happens at Mountain Ops, a percentage of that order goes to Conquer Hunger. So certainly an incredible company, an incredible culture. As a listener to the show, you do get an exclusive offer to Mountain Ops, so make sure you check that out. The offer is incredible as a first-time purchase at mountainops.com. So build your order if it's your first time. They are offering you a 20% exclusive discount. All you need to do is enter the promo code Mountain Tough, all one word, all caps, for 20% off your first order at mountainops.com. Oh, I couldn't agree more, man. We just got home from taking our girls to Alaska. And
Nice.
so I took my 13-year-old daughter, and then the Mountain Tough president, Lyle, took his 11-year-old daughter. And a big part of why we did that trip is for this exact reason of I wanted my daughter to experience the feeling of complete self-reliance, and there's no escape button. And so it's really interesting because there are a lot of sheep hunters in the Mountain Tough community that aspire to hunt sheep someday. They really aspire to hunt them in British Columbia or Alaska. And, you know, those tags now are $40,000-$50,000. And it's, you know, most people are trying to find a way to win one at a lottery or draw one in a lottery. But there are a lot of guys going to British Columbia, Alaska, and they advertise at a lot of those sheep camps around the world 90% success rate, 100% success rate. But once you start meeting some of these outfitters and chatting with some of these outfitters that live in these remote locations, there's some of these like sheep units in the Mackenzie Mountains of British Columbia where they haven't had hunters in different zones for 3, 4, 5 years. And so, you know, there's rocks in there that no human has walked on yet. And related to that 90% success rate, what the insiders know is that there are a lot of people that show up to those sheep camps and they quit before the hunt has even started. And they don't calculate that into their metrics of 90%. So the true metrics would come down to like 70, 60% if they factored in the guys that got to camp and quit. But the reason they're quitting that percentage is because being that far from anything, being that unplugged, getting that feeling of there's no escape button here, getting that feeling of anything that goes wrong, we're going to have to figure out, getting that feeling of like self-reliance is the only thing that works here, creates a percentage of people to quit that bought $50,000 tags, and they're not getting that money back. And so I wanted my daughter to feel that feeling because I've felt it before up there. And it's hard to get in the States because, like, you know, an awesome Montana backcountry elk hunt, you still know you can walk to a road, and that road's going to lead you to a bar, and then at that bar you're going to call your buddy. But in Alaska, we flew 140 miles and then got dropped off. We got picked up 8 days later. There was, in that flight, I didn't see a single shanty, shack, cabin. Like, there's nothing up there.
Nothing.
And so your only escape button is the military coming to get you, but a big part of that is now if you connect that to our walk in life and being a Christian and being self-reliant, I think is a critical foundation to that, because there's nothing more than the devil wanting us to be plugged into the machine.
Absolutely.
Because if we're plugged into the machine, then the machine can control our thoughts, action, behavior, our biases. He can control the whole narrative of the conversation.
Absolutely.
And so I love it, man, because I know that's what Fieldcraft is doing as well. And all of us can get little chunks of this into our daily life. We don't have to fly to Alaska to get it.
Right.
But, you know, we can throw on a ruck before work and just get that vitamin D.
Well, that's exactly it, right? Like the system, like we laugh because we're big movie buffs in our family. It's like the Matrix, you know, analogy. You become so just self-centered, trying to satiate or feed the monster that is you, and it's narcissism, right? And that's what the current system is like, how much can I accumulate, how much can I get? And when the enemy gets you in that frame of mind, then you begin to lose sight of others. And that's the biggest issue, right? Is when you're so self-centered and only focused on that, you essentially are disarmed. There's nothing that he can do with something. He meaning the Lord, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's so great about self-reliance is there's a shift there. Self-reliance and narcissism, we're talking about two opposite ends, where one, the other side, the negative side is all you care about is yourself and getting, and the self-reliance becomes, how do I do this to create a space for others? Like for me, being that I didn't grow up in the military, this idea really didn't come, apparent to me until I had my first kiddo, my daughter, Sophia, who's 14 now. And then all of a sudden, brother, I had everything to lose. And I was like, crap, I've been living this life in the matrix, in the system, just doing whatever, partying, trying to figure out whatever that is in my 20s, chasing girls, whatever. And it's like, I had Sophia when I was 28, and my wife and I kind of sat down when, we had planned this, because this was part of, a bigger picture for us. And I'm like, I don't know how to do any of this. And unless you were like, raised on a farm, or the military taught you, I don't know a lot of people who practice this, especially now in current 2025, And it's like, there's a bigger realization, like, oh my God, like we can really change the direction of the country and go back to these grassroots things with Fieldcraft. And I really love that you're hitting on that, because, with Mountain Tough and the mindset things and everything, you guys are doing the same thing. And that's why I love it. When I got the email, I was like, yes, like this is exactly, the people that we need to partner with and talk with, because it's all part of that, that ecosystem of the stuff that needs to happen within the United States, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know, maybe people disagree with where we're at right now.
I think, people agree. And I think it is, it's important to have people like you and the work that we're trying to do out there, because everything in the worldly system 24/7 365 is going to tell you the opposite. And absolutely, that's a hard world to live in, when everything that you look at, everything that is communicated to you through media and in your community is often going to tell you to just chase those, flesh to the eyes, chase the materialism. And it's a lot easier to separate yourself from that when you have a couple good dudes doing the same thing. It's just a complete difference maker, complete game changer, because then all of a sudden you're like, I'm not that crazy. I'm not like, there's other people that also know the power of vitamin D and self-reliance. Right. And there's other people that realize that men are built for adventure. And
exactly,
you get a few of those in your corner, and then your eyes start to open, and you're like, oh, actually, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Yes. But there's a narrow path and a wide path, and a lot of people are on the wide path.
So true, man. Oh God. If there's always like a call to action, right? When we're talking about things, and if I could speak on that a little bit, we have been, in essence, at the same time, with all this woke garbage that's been going on, neutered as men, with stupid things like toxic masculinity being tossed out there. And it's like, that was never what the Lord intended for us, to be this quiet, feminine thing. We as men, should be seeking a lifestyle that is obviously, like we talk about, servant leadership. But man, get off your butt, right? Get in the gym, throw some heavy weights around, take your kids on a walk, all these different things that have been like, I don't know, like demonized maybe is the word. Learn to be the best possible person you can be, but not because, you want to have your shirt off and talking about punching people in the mouth, but because you could be in the community as an example, shoveling rock for your neighbor, or like me, I got two little ones, man, carrying them around and throwing them around the pool, taking them outside or stuff like that at a very superficial level. That in turn, when you get higher up, just within the ranks of your brothers, you really have the opportunity to do some really groundbreaking things. A lot of times these guys like, I don't understand this whole camping thing. Really? Well, you should come sit by the fire with us, because I'll tell you, I got buddies who are, I mean, I'm the little one in the group, so it's really funny. Some of these dudes are 6'2", 6'4" monsters, and me, I'm like 5'5". But bro, they're crying at the fire because of the goodness of God. And we leave that place like just renewed and ready to go take on whatever it is. It's like, guys, there's all these tools that you can plug into. My call to action to go full circle would be learn what that is, get plugged in, let's do this.
Yeah. Mountain Tough is the fitness app trusted by the dedicated. Mountain Tough ethos is backed by, we've always wanted to be the best in the world at helping our customers become more mentally tough. So inside the Mountain Tough app, you're not only going to find all of our physical training programs, but you're going to find additional training as well so that you can stay sharp physically, mentally, spiritually, and nutritionally. The Mountain Tough app also allows you to train no matter where you are, anytime, anywhere. Additionally, the Mountain Tough app is going to have programs from beginners all the way up to elite athletes. And all of our programming is structured in a way that you can start with no gear at body weight, and you can go all the way up to programming that is full gear. So you can do that in a robust home gym or your local gym. There's no excuse for you not to start today. With Mountain Tough, you can conquer your goals with the ideal program for your lifestyle and schedule. Train with equipment or just your body weight on your phone, tablet, TV, or web browser. Most importantly, Mountain Tough will help you train your mindset so you are always ready for anything life throws your way. Mountain Tough is offering the Mountain Tough Podcast listeners an incredible offer. 6 weeks free on the Mountain Tough app. All you need to do is use the code MTNPOD to redeem your 6 weeks of training. That'll be a 14-day free trial plus a whole additional 4 weeks of training. Just go to mountaintough.com and enter code MTNPOD for your 6 weeks free on the best-in-class physical and mental training app. And it's easier to do with like a few buddies and a brotherhood next to you. Mountain Tough has always, since day one of our taglines has been always ready. And
like that.
The always ready that we unpacked over the years has been that we want you ready as a man to be able to run a Spartan race next week if your daughter asks you to. We don't want you to be like, we don't want you to say no to your daughter because you have to train up for that event, and because you have to train up for that event you miss it. Or like, we want you to be always ready in the hunting scenario. If my buddy calls me today because it's September, and he's like, hey, I just killed this awesome bull, it's in a nasty drainage, can you come help pack it out? I can't live my life in a way that I say no to that because I'm not physically or mentally ready.
Right.
But then God wants us to be, protectors and providers. And to be a protector, maybe always ready is an intruder comes into the gas station and tries to hold it up on your family trip, as you're heading somewhere. It's not something at that moment. You can't train up for that. You can't train up. You have to already be living a trained lifestyle. And it's kind of like it's like a 401k. I mean, you have to be putting in these investments and these investments and these investments. And, some of them are physical, some of them are spiritual, some of them are mental,
Yes.
Some of them are tactical skills, medical skills. Because adversity is coming for all of us. And,
Absolutely.
we're in it now, or we just got through it, or we're about to enter it. And you can't start training once that stuff hits.
or I hope, if it's okay, I was in my morning devotional early this morning and not realizing the direction we're going. The Lord drew me to this scripture. Can I read it? Is it
You
okay if
bet.
I do that?
That'd be awesome.
So 1 Corinthians 15:13 says, be on your guard, stand firm in the faith, be courageous, be strong. And if you know Corinthians, it means the church. These are like mandates to that. The end of that verse is be strong. Like 100%. If you're here saying, I don't know, you guys are just, there was this idea, by the way, when I was growing up that, you know why these guys lift weights and do these things? Because what society tells them to do. It's like, bro, look at the scriptures, like right there. 1 Corinthians 15:13 says, be strong. Like, let's go, right?
Bro.
Yeah, I'm getting chills talking about it with you right now. But isn't that funny? Like, I had no idea, like just confirmation from the Lord right there, man.
Dude, you know, the mind-blowing thing about that is the different translations of that scripture, depending on if you read like NLT or ESV, there's two crazy things. One is the end will say, stand firm, act like men. The really wild thing is there's one more sentence to that scripture that in a manly sense, a lot of like man websites will not include the last scripture, but the next sentence says, and do all in love.
Oof.
So like stand firm, act like men, but do all that you do in love. And it just makes me think about what you're doing like with your team and, you know, being there for your team. You can't just be this like manly man that takes people camping without the love component.
Absolutely.
Like it's all interconnected.
Absolutely. Especially like within our group of dudes, you know, I think that a lot of guys, if you weren't raised with this Corinthians message or, you know, in the church or whatever that is, there is a propensity there to kind of go in the wrong direction. Right. And I love that these guardrails, it absolutely is be strong, but also operate in love. And it's like, well, what is love? Well, if you go to the fruit of the spirit, love is kind, love is patient, right? It's never proud or boastful. Like those things are so imperative, right? Even when there's conflict, and this is, I'm preaching to myself right now because there's been a lot of conflict. You know, it matters how we do these certain things. And, you know, if I could say or speak on this, like what you just said right there is so important. There can't be this blanket rule of, well, if you're a fat slob, you can't, you know, be a part of this group. No, let's bring this dude in love and then let's show him that brother love where it's like, dude, I'm going to kick your butt on this 5-mile run or whatever it is. Because I love you and let's do this together. But it's like, if they're showing interest, you're like, get the heck out of here, you fat slob. Like,
yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. Yeah. That's because it's a good point because a lot of like type A hard chargers will want to push those guys out instead of love them and bring them into the fold. Right. But we all started somewhere, man.
We all started somewhere. And there's also like this other thing too. And, you know, even to kind of piggyback off the military, I think that there's a reluctancy that guys who aren't a part of that or served in that way, or maybe just they had different career plans, right?
Yep.
And a lot of these guys will come in and they'll kind of like tiptoe around and they'll be a little bit, reluctant. And I would encourage them to just get plugged in. Like that's the way it is. Maybe I'm just used to it being, again, the runt in the group. But again, the call to action is get plugged in, guys. Like, reach out to us, figure out where there's a course, where there's an event, or a show even. I got a lot of guys who come to like the expos just to reach out and pick our brains and see where they can get plugged in. And what state are you guys in right now?
We're in Montana.
Montana? Excellent. There's a lot of things going on in Montana. Andy Stump he sits on our board. He's one of our good partners. He's got a lot of products in his coffee shop. There's always things going on there, right?
His shop's awesome.
Arizona, California, Colorado. Those are the main states. Oh, Texas, we're interoperating in right now too. So,
in a lot of different ways, guys can plug in to Fieldcraft through. You're still doing like medical training, firearms training, and then. As
a matter of fact, if you look at the website at fieldcraftsurvival.com, there's a training tab. All those states that I just lined out. I know that there is a medical training in October. I just got back. We did one. Check this out, dude. Sunday, I was in Springerville, Saratoga Springs. Sorry, Saratoga Springs is the location of our new hub, and we had this emergency MD group of doctors, some top level tier of group that reached out to us. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Nate Jones. We call him Doc.
Yeah.
He is a Army medic. He's been for like 16, 17 years. I think he's got a couple more years for retirement. And, his whole job has just been training medics in the Army. And he's like one of the old guys, which is funny now because, I don't think he's 40 yet, And we got reached out to these ER docs, this group of 10, like, hey, listen, we're in this conference. We'd love to bridge the gap between pre-hospitalist care and the emergency room. Can you guys set us up with a course? I'm like, yes. So that just happened on Saturday. And so as I understand, they were just super, at that level is my point as an MD already. They're like, dude, this was amazing. They had no idea the experience. And they're like carrying dudes and fake blood and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But we got another one coming up in October here in Goodyear, actually, in Arizona. So people want to get plugged in that, as we're kind of picking up the pieces and rebuilding Fieldcraft. And, actually, I'm about to refresh the icon and the logo and everything just here where like next month. Yeah.
Dang. That's exciting.
Those will all be available and ready. And my dudes are already on the schedule. So check the website for sure.
Man. Yeah. You guys have a ton of opportunities for guys to plug in. And the big thing is not only will you get trained plugging into these opportunities, but you're also highly likely to meet like another good dude there that will be a friend for life, a brother for life. It happens all the time.
So true.
Well, Mike, I appreciate it, man. Appreciate you jumping on the Mountain Tough show. I know that I've been looking forward to this one for a long time, and just love what you're doing, love what you're up to, love your character and how you carry yourself, and it was awesome to chat with you today. Likewise, brother. An honor to be invited on here. We'll have to connect in Montana at some point. I think I'm going to head up there like Q2. Yeah. So we'll figure that out, but maybe, even get on a hunt or something here in the future. Yeah, let's get you up here. Hell yeah, brother. Thank you. Man, what a great conversation with Mike. That was not the conversation I was expecting, and it certainly exceeded my expectations. I had a blast chatting with him. What a great human. Remember, every single episode, we're looking for that golden nugget. Man, the golden nugget with that one for me is Mike just knows how to roll through the ups and downs of life, and that is a mental toughness skill. Think about, like the definition of mental toughness can connect you to the definition of tenacity, and tenacity is the trait that all men aspire to have, and tenacity is just getting back up and getting back up and getting back up. Mike chatted about that, but think about that in your own lives. How can you apply that? How can you apply that right away so that you have that practical approach to mental toughness? Love you guys. Thanks for being here, and we will see you on the next episode.